The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.
If you're listening to Tony Kurre Radio, or wherever you get your favorite podcast, we hope you enjoyed Mission Minded. Keep in mind your mission in your mind. We're talking about tariffs and everything else. And, of course, we try to stay incredibly topical with that. Something that we have to stay topical with is the Heart of Alabama Food Bank and, of course, Feeding America, because it's an everyday, every second, every moment situation. And we love that. And Michael Coleman, the CEO of Heart of Alabama Food Bank, joins us every week for Bite by Bite. You've always been a guy, and I love talking to you because you're a silver lining guy. You can make a lemonade out of lemons, and I've seen you do that. You want to talk about that today here on BBB?
Yeah. So, and I've talked about previous episodes, the impact of some of our USDA cuts. So this is very relevant, and it's very what's happening today. But thankfully, all of our funding does not come with government. And lots of nonprofits. If all of your funding, if all your eggs are in one basket, so to speak, yeah, and cuts come along, but that's not food banking. That we have different mechanisms for funding, but still 30% of the funding, 25, 30% come from the USDA, both in product and in dollars. And as I've said, we've experienced some drastic cuts and continue to receive cuts. And it looks like now it's getting into the millions of dollars, multiple millions of dollars, both in food, if you combine food and then funding cuts. So one of the things is, and I think, again, I mentioned it, maybe, you got to talk to the staff. You got to talk about your stakeholders about, well, what can you do about it? Well, you can only focus on what you can control. But we kind of shifted focus here was, look, we ask people for donations all the time. We ask people for support all the time. If you're a recipient and you're going to a major stakeholder and you're saying, or possible donor, and that could be a government entity, it could be a business, it could be whatever. And you say, hey, there's a lot of people out there that can't make ends meet. We're going to need support. We're there as the community. But that kind of loses its appeal after a while. You're like, you got anything new? It's just hard because it's an everyday reality, but the urgency of giving, it's hard to keep that going. Then you have something like this, which most people look at and go, wow, this is ravaging food banking with hundreds of millions of dollars across the entire network. It's devastating, on and on and on. But I got a meeting as a result of it with our mayor, Stephen Reed, first African American ever elected to Montgomery. Mm-hmm. He's in his second term. Never met with him. I've met him, but I've never met with him before. Yep. And so I went in and finally got a meeting, took a lot. He's got a lot of people who want to meet with him. And so it took me a while. And I went in there and I was not optimistic, to be honest with you. I do try to find the silver lining, but I went to him and said, Mr. Mayor, I'm coming before you. And, we give Montgomery almost 4 million meals, just the city of Montgomery, 4 million meals a year. And this is the impact that every food bank has, but just for your city. And it's very interesting because you talk about what food insecurity really is a result of is an income gap. Some people don't have access to food because they don't have transportation because their car's broken, mm-hmm. or they've lost a job. They just don't have money to make ends meet. So you have to pay electric bill. You have to do certainly. You have to pay your whatever, but you can cut on food. Well, if you've got children, seniors, all that, that's really damaging. So we are 4 million meals of people who are struggling with income security, getting fresh food. That has it frees up other money for them to spend on critical, vital things and still have nutritious food. And the mayor was keenly aware of the impact that we've had for many, many years. talked about a family member, an aunt of his who served in a church. And so he said, well, tell me what you need. And I told him. And the truth of the matter was, it wasn't enough, but I can't turn to one mayor and expect him to make up, the deficit for everybody else.
Sure.
But I gave him the figure, and he came back, instantly said, I think we can help you. And then when I left there, though, I felt so good about it. I actually took my board chair with me, and I felt so good and refreshed by that it emboldened me to say, wait a minute, there's a sense of urgency right now that's been created by the USDA cuts. So tying it in and saying, wait a minute, let's hold the presses, if you will. Let's look at everything now. There's a window of urgency, and it's legit. It's not fabricated. It's legit. We need to go back and hit every county commission, every city council, every mayor, every business, every church, synagogue, on and on and on, because this is an impact we can't overcome on our own. But this is different than just saying, hey, we want to do more. We want your support. This is we've had the rug pulled out from under us in the food banking world. And so what's happened is that doesn't mean everybody's going to be able to help you, but it's created an environment that supports the ask. And people can talk about how negative the environment is. The reality is it's given us an opportunity, because at some point, hopefully that government funding will be restored, or at least begin to climb back up again as time goes on. That city support, that county support that you get, or that new donor support, new business support, hopefully is a relationship that you keep for many years to come. I would not have had the same ability to go to the city without that urgency, because he was concerned about us cutting services to his people. He knew I wasn't going to have a choice because we don't have the food, and he stepped into that gap. And so it's kind of given me a renewed hope of being able to raise sufficient funds. We're not going to be able to make up millions of dollars of impact, but we can. It's a shout out to the community and to the area counties to, hey, we want fraud, waste, and abuse cut. Again, I'm all for that. I'm all for. I back what the administration is doing in a lot of ways, not always. But it's also impacting people in a real way. And so until that dust settles, it's just a lesson learned. Again, I've learned it before, but it's one of those where you're learning it all over again. But I just want to encourage people out there, when you think about what the challenges are and what's faced before, what you're facing, try to look at it from a different perspective. Even if you have to help somebody come in and say, all right, the old proverbial, making chicken salad out of chicken droppings. How about that? And there are opportunities there. So instead of being down, depressed, droopy, woe is us, it's like we have a renewed, fresh breath of air to go forward. And then it's up to me to communicate that across the organization and build enthusiasm where otherwise, you got a little depression going on. So very thankful for that, and very appreciative, and hopefully more people will come aboard and help us through this time.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio.